can we just talk real quick before I say hellos about NC State? And Mike, I want to kick this to you ultimately, and I actually want to go to all three of you to see if there's some sort of equivalent to what we're seeing with NC State. But NC State pre-tournament, 1,000 to 1 to win. And if you rolled NC State over, I mean, we'll see the winnings in a second. If you just bet NC State from the beginning of, let's say, the ACC tournament and rolled it over, oh my gosh, will you have cashed in? Mike, I got to ask you, your initial reaction to NC State making the Final Four, and what were their odds? What were your model odds before this tournament started?
Yeah, as far as the model odds, weren't even calculating because they weren't relevant. They had to win the ACC tournament to get in, right? So it was a beautiful situation. We talk about it in NFL and some of the others when you're rolling over on the money line parlay. You can do that when you get to win and advance only situations. And that's what they were in. So usually you only get this for 3 or 4 games in the tournament there, but you got it for multiple tournaments there because the only way they could advance to the NCAA tournament was to continue to win. It wasn't a scenario where they had done enough to get in if they had lost in the final. They had to win everything to get in. But as far as them in the Final Four here, I think that, they've been phenomenal at times, but I think we have to also look at the path to getting there. They had a pretty easy path overall, thanks to Oakland upsetting Kentucky, getting that matchup with Oakland, getting through that. And then Marquette, they had a great win there. And then catching the break, not having to face Houston here because they lost their best player against Duke. Just one of those situations where when they got to that important game against Duke, it was a significantly different matchup for them, one that they were friendly with because they play them multiple times per season. But heck of a run for them. Been a lot of fun to see DJ Burns.
Very interesting. Yeah, DJ Burns, very interesting. I'm seeing some stuff about NFL scouts maybe being interested in DJ Burns as an interior lineman. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe he'll be invited to some workouts. All right, Martin Green, I got to ask you, instead of saying hello, I just want to know, in soccer, have we seen, at least in the last 10, 20 years, the equivalent of an NC State in the Final Four, a dog, 1,000 to 1 odds type team? Doesn't have to be exactly those odds, but somewhere where a team just came out of nowhere in cup action or anything like that, league action.
Yeah, we have, Sia. In 2016, a team called Leicester City won the Premier League, defied preseason odds of 5,000 to 1 to win the league. Everybody expected them to get relegated and finish near the bottom, but they won. They finished ahead of Arsenal and Manchester City and Chelsea, won the league. And you could have got shorter odds on David Cameron, who was the Prime Minister at the time, taking over as Aston Villa manager, just as an example of how long those odds were.
Yeah, it's funny because I know there was something out there about somebody putting a bet on Elvis to still be alive at those exact odds. They place this bet with a sports book at 1,000 to 1, and that's what we're looking at with NC State. And by the way, everybody knows Elvis is alive. He lives with Tupac in Rochester. Mikey B. All right, do we have an NBA or a basketball equivalent outside of NC State to what we're seeing with NC State making it to the Final Four?
So what I want to do is give you some current odds right now for this season, either to win the conference or to win the NBA Finals. The Atlanta Hawks are 900 to 1 to win the Eastern Conference. The Rockets, who are probably not even going to make the play-in tournament, are 900 to 1 to win the Western Conference. And my Bulls are 1,000 to 1 to be the NBA champions. I guess we should book it.
Wow. All right. I'll book the Bulls. Okay. Before we get to our official bets, Mike, there's one thing that you teach us pretty much every year around playoff time. We talked about it during the NFL season, where we talked about rolling over some bets instead of taking futures. So when everybody looks at this screen on YouTube and listens to Mike, I want you to internalize this, not just for, hey, looking back on what NC State did, but really looking forward when you're considering futures bets. Mike, why is it sometimes a better idea, if not all the time, a better idea to take that money that you might invest in a future and just roll it over game by game?
Yes, yeah, I think it's almost always a better idea when you are betting a middle to long shot, just because they're not going to hang futures numbers that are going to be that big. I think the big thing to point out, though, is you can only do this in situations where you know outcomes. We had one in the NFL this season where they had to win a game to win the division, to get in the playoffs, things like that. But really, you can only do it when it's win or go home situations. But that's what the NCAA tournament is. So when you look at this, it should make some intuitive sense when an underdog continues to win like this. So I think it's a beautiful deal here. I'm sure there's not a single person out there that attempted the rollover from start to finish. I'm sure there are many people that have rollover parlays on teams like UConn, et cetera here, which is still, this is one of those situations where you would have had better value on UConn rolling over than a future number at the start of the tournament. So yeah, very fascinating, very smart, almost always going to be looking at that. And the one benefit, everyone always, we see on social media a lot, should I cash out? Should I not? The beauty of the rollover parlay is you can stop at any time with the money in your account. You cannot do that on a future. And when you're playing a future, you have cash out offers that are certainly not in your favor to accept.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point by Eric David. He says, but would anyone in their right mind actually roll over the whole amount on all these games? I would hope not. Well, that's the beauty of it. Again, what it kind of Mike just sort of clarified that point in a different way. You don't have to roll over the total amount every time, and you can still really cash in, especially if it's like a mid to long shot, a dog in each of these games. So that's the thing about betting. You can kind of play it however you want. But again, the rollover tends to be better in that sort of middle to long shot range, tends to be better than just betting the future in terms of getting value out of your pick.